How often do you go back and finish a game you were playing? Let's say you only left a couple of missions or you were in the beginning of your game, but something distracted you and you said to yourself, you know what, I will revisit this game in the future. Did you ever go back? And if not, why? And if yes, why? Why do you feel a sudden urge to play one game over another? I wondered a little bit too much about this and I ended up making this short video. Because although the question seems simple, it quickly started taking me directions I couldn't predict. Let's do some case analysis. First case scenario. Too much of a good thing? When I started Yakuza Kiwami, I didn't know what to expect. I knew I was gonna be introduced to some Japanese insanity, so I was expecting the usual tropes, the loud screaming, over-dramatization of everything, etc, etc. But apart from those expectations, I was a blank slate. Having my curiosity at its peak about the series, I had to see what all the fuss was about. And oh boy, was I pleasantly surprised. I fell in love. I was intrigued by the story and I wanted to know what would happen next. I enjoyed the combat to the point that I would use every chance I have to duel. I would feel invigorated when I would lose to a boss fight and I would go back focused and adrenalized for the next try. The side content was an absolute surprise to me. Nothing that looked so cheaply made could conceivably be engaging, I said to myself as an ignorant fool. So imagine my amazement when I found myself dumping countless hours in playing Pocket Circuit Racing, the Mezu King Buttlebug's beauties, and lastly the UFO Catcher minigame. The developers have this amazing ability to give each minigame a story that you want to see till the end. If that's not masterful storytelling, then I don't know what is. Because all the characters just make sounds instead of talking. It looks very cheap. Or I guess it sounds very cheap. So how could you know that behind this silly card minigame, there's a story about chasing your dreams and never giving up and how growing up and conforming to what society wants can be soul-crushing? Or how in Mezu King Buttlebug's Beauty's minigame, it's not about the girls with huge eyes, but it's instead about friendship, classism, segregation, and the importance of putting our issues aside and just having fun. Okay, I'm being a little bit dramatic here, it's not that profound. It really warms my heart to go back and revisit these memories. Sometimes I think that the real reason that I make videos is so I can have an excuse to go back and replay games I love. But to get back to the topic at hand, even though I loved Yakuza Kiwami, I never finished it. And that's fine. I finished the main story and I put countless hours in the minigames, so no complaints here. Here's where the story gets interesting. I promised that I would play the other games in the series, but not now. I needed some time to recover from what I played because otherwise it would feel too samey. So after some time, it was time to play Yakuza 0. And I think you can predict where this is going. The game shared the same insanity as the first one, with enough new things to make it compelling and enough Mr. Libido to make one curious. But it was simply not working for me the same way as the first game did. I pushed myself in hopes that the game would grab me at some point, but sometimes entertainment is like trying to catch a coin that is stuck under your seat. The more you try, the more you push it away. I think we all know someone that was trying to get to like Witcher 3 or Final Fantasy 13 and they just wouldn't be able to do it. And they just took a long break from it, they tried again and suddenly it just clicked and it was amazing. It's a very strange phenomenon that requires its own video, I think, which I might make in the future. But for now, let's just move on. So I agreed that I would give it some time and hopefully come back. I was only a few hours in, so in Yakuza terms, I probably saw 15% of what the game had to offer. So this would be an example of a game that was great, but I ended up abandoning it in only a few hours in. Keep that in mind. Second case scenario. Strange fascination. I was looking for something to play, and as I was scrolling through PlayStation Extra Catalog, I saw this game called Call of Cthulhu. Is that how you're supposed to pronounce it? I hope so. This is a game I saw being mentioned in this video about Lovecraftian games from Never Knows Better, but at the time, I never finished that video. So the video couldn't serve more as just a reminder that this game existed and nothing else. Because if you see the video till the end, he ends up not recommending the game at all. This is why seeing a Coca-Cola can in a movie works for marketing, because if I didn't recognize this game from somewhere, I probably would have never clicked and downloaded it. But I did, and here we are. I read a little bit about the plot and I said to myself, why not, let's try it. Worst case scenario, just lose an hour of my time. But to my surprise, the game resonated with me and I ended up looking forward to playing a little more every night just to see what will happen next. I would turn off the lights and wear my headphones, hope no one bothers me, and just dive deep. After playing for some time, it became apparent to me that many things are wrong with this game. The progression path feels pointless, you don't get much freedom when you play, the choices you make don't impact the story at all, the graphics are not the best, and the voice acting is lacking. But the biggest offender has to be the sound balance, which is completely off, which makes the game feel like my videos. But despite all that, I got invested in learning what happened with the tragic loss of this family, and every time the game changed its gameplay, I felt a desire to keep pushing. Were the changes in the gameplay good? Not really. The game never reaches a compelling gameplay loop, but it did something to me because despite everything, I played to the end, and even though the ending was disappointing, I still ended up enjoying the overall experience. Why would a mediocre game compel me to finish it? Was it because it was short? Was it because it was just different than most games? Was it the setting and atmosphere? And most importantly, why although this game had so many flaws, I didn't stop playing it, but I did leave Yakuza 0, a much better game. Third scenario, is this a toxic relationship? After much effort, I managed to finish Neo 1. It broke me, but I wanted to prove to my ego that I can play a Souls-like game and finish it. And oddly enough, I found Neo to be easier to keep going than any Souls game I played at that point. Don't know why, because everyone seems to find the Neo series harder. But I digress. So after some time, I started playing Neo 2. And I started dying and dying, but I knew how it goes and that this is part of the journey. But this time, I started questioning my life choices. I felt more angry and frustrated with this game than I did with anything else in my life. Not work or relationships, a fucking video game. At a random number of deaths of having to run back to the boss battle area, I said to myself, why?
Why are we still here? Just to suffer? Every night, I can feel my leg and my arm, even my fingers.
I closed the game with the intention of never coming back. 2 hours later, I was playing again. Fourth scenario. Obsessive behavior when it comes to acquiring trophies/achievements. I could use any example from the mainstream entries of the Assassin's Creed series games to illustrate my point. But searching through my Platinum games, there's one game that I feel makes the point much better than the others. And that is the Assassin's Creed Revelations entry. Assassin's Creed Revelations was not the best in the series. The plot was stretched more than pizza dough, it ran terribly on the hardware that I played it on, that good old PS Triple. But most importantly is that I had so much Assassin's Creed fatigue at that point, which to this day makes me wonder how I could be okay with wasting my time away to get the Platinum to Assassin's Creed Revelation. I remember a young me feeling the desperate need to go back and grind at every part of the game till I could get the meaningless Platinum trophy. Time was not an obstacle, no. I was the embodiment of futility. And this is not the only time this happens to me. I have had this insatiable impulse to complete games for trophies for years now. I know that no one cares. My friends don't care. Strangers don't care. I myself don't really evaluate that much. So why waste all this time and energy? Not much has changed though. I'm still finding time to grind myself to boredom. The latest tragedy was when I was trying to get the Platinum trophy for Final Fantasy XVI. A game that I enjoyed for the most part became a living nightmare of unmotivated labor by the end. To get the Platinum trophy, I had to go through boring side quest after boring side quests, time slipping away, and not enough podcasts to make it tolerable. So after countless hours of boredom, the ending was in sight. A little more and I would be free from this self-imposed nightmare. I had been asking myself throughout the whole endeavor, why not quit? No, it cannot all be for nothing, I replied. So, I finished all the monster hunts, side quests, finished the game on Final Fantasy difficulty, and the trophy about traveling to every place in the game glitched on me. Here the game sits unfinished. I couldn't muster the strength to do the side quest again. I put down my controller in defeat and promised to stop and make this a lesson to remember. Fifth scenario. I am not too hungry today. So I started playing Returnal. I was very excited about this game. Firstly because it was a roguelike game, and secondly because all previous Housemarque games up until this point were quite good. I was curious about the story. I imagined it feeling like Prometheus, a movie that I really enjoyed. Returnal turned out like I thought it would. I had an amazing time learning its different mechanics, and even though it didn't take long for the story to become secondary, I didn't mind it, because the gameplay was so captivating. Or maybe because the gameplay was so captivating, it made the story secondary. So finally I finished what seemed to be the main part of the journey, and when you were required to go back to all the previous levels and collect the sun phase fragments, I said to myself, this was nice. I had a good time, but I feel like it's time to move on. I'd rather not redo these sections. I might as well seek new experiences. There's so many games to play. Quick disclaimer, I'm one of those people that never goes back to play a game because of DLC. In my opinion, most games are so big that by the time that I'm done with them, I'm so saturated that I don't want more content. I know what you're thinking. Weird statement to make for someone that is willing to waste so much time with trophies. I know, I'm a hypocrite. So in the end, I put the game down. Looking back, it was a nice, short, very enjoyable experience, and I was excited to probably never come back. Summary. So in the first scenario, we had a game that was quite good, but quite possibly the feeling of familiarity made it unexciting. In the second scenario, we have a game that is by all regards a mediocre experience. But like that girl with the piercings, there's something there that gets you curious. Right time and right place, who knows? In the end, you were okay with the subpart experience, even though you could write a whole script as to why that game sucked. And I almost did. In the third example, we have a game that the public perception seems to be the main driver that motivates you to finish it. You're trying to prove yourself to this abstract collection of gamers who are there to mock you for your incompetence. Find the courage to say, you don't like the Souls series that much, and watch as the smile grows in your adversary's face. The side of their lips rising up slowly, eyes expanding like the ever-ending universe, the throat contracting, in preparation to utter one single phrase. Get good. Now watch as they elevate to heaven, where arms of all the previous accomplished gamers are there to pick them up. A gamer's Valhalla, if you will. But for you, one fact remains the same. The moment-to-moment experience you had with these games was as enjoyable as having your cat scratch your balls. But here you are, suffering, trying to prove yourself otherwise. You're starting to understand what masochism means. And one day, after your 20,000th death, a familiar smile begins to find its place on your own lips. The fourth example is about a game that you could certainly argue against playing, let alone finish. But the Platinum Trophy seems to be the single driving force for this crusade of futility and meaninglessness. Simply put, you're not having fun. You're just going through the motions. But here you are playing the game and caring about how many trophies you have. How could you ever make fun of the people wasting money on free-to-play games when you waste the most precious currency, your time? But you do make fun of those people because, double standards. No time to think, time to act, you say to yourself, while you're doing the equivalent of washing cutlery as a means of having a good time. Final example. You had an amazing time, but you don't feel the need to finish every single aspect of this game. It's almost like you have a healthy relationship with the experience and not an obsessive one. You go through your Assassin's Creed Platinums and you're wondering why you were okay with grinding on those games, but you're not willing to continue a game that you actually enjoy? As you leave the controller down and you move from this game experience, you are closer to self-actualization and intellectual transcendence. A boy picked up this controller and a man put it down. Your face as mindful as it can possibly be. But then you scroll through PlayStation Plus tier, you notice an Assassin's Creed game. You decide, I do need my 7th Platinum on the series.
Conclusions. My original plan was to go into detail into the mechanics that hook players. I wanted to show with research how our dopamine-owned brains operate. That way we could start placing all these different scenarios in boxes and understand the situation better. But I will not do that, since the more you dig in, the more you find subjective factors that determine which games you stick with and which ones you don't. It is quite amusing that you would disagree with yourself about the choices you yourself make, and it's almost magical that some games can put you in a trance-like state where you mindfully enjoy every moment, and on another occasion, you can seem to enjoy the most accessible of games. Yes, you're getting old and hateful of everything, and having fun is not as easy anymore. But remember that at the same time, you are a connoisseur of games. You can find enjoyment in the smallest, highly detailed things. So there's something to that. That's probably the reason you prefer breaking down games and analyzing them instead of playing them. So what's your next move? What I can ask you is, how much are you enjoying the current game you're playing? Is there something worthwhile here? Remember, you will die soon, so stop wasting your time playing games you don't love, and stop being obsessed about getting platinum trophies. Well, excluding platinum trophies that enhance the experience, but that is a topic for another day. Bye, my guy.